that's maybe even a little bit stronger. Xin Zhao, no slouch at all on this patch. That champion is nuts.
And especially when you look at what the side of RNG try to do, they like throwing up their eggs into the top lane basket. Xin Zhao is perfect for that kind of a style. You're able to engage from so far away, even with a flash. If you flash to the straight line, his wind becomes lightning. Just does so much range on extra on that, and you get the knock up. So much there available to them. Now EDG, they have the option to take the Lee Sin and the Gwen should they choose it, and I feel like you gotta take away the Gwen. You cannot give that one over to Xiaohu.
Yeah, I'm all for it. I think this is a really strong 1-2 punch from EDG, leaving open the Xin Zhao, saying, yeah, you guys are going to take that, give us two really powerful picks to lock in immediately. With Viego off the table, don't even think about it. Just lock that champion in. It is going to look real good for EDG. So now RNG, what they really need is a strong mid laner, you know, that can sort of fight alongside the Xin Zhao, look for roams towards the top side of the map. This is going to be the bread and butter for RNG. A lot of skirmish-heavy, fighting-focused solo laners to play around the Xin Zhao in the early game.
Well, they might look to try and get the solo laners or lock in their bot lane, as they know that there is only going to be either an AD carry or support locked in for EDG, and it looks like that is going to be the play. So they want to put Gala onto something that he is comfortable. And again, this is something we saw from them in spring, whereas Gala finds a champion in the meta that he is very good on and very powerful in his own right on, but it's also something he's very comfortable on. So getting him that keeps RNG's bot lane from imploding upon itself, and they're going to combo it up with the Nautilus as well.
Yep, I do like seeing this. The Varus Nautilus is a lane Gala and Ming have run a lot. So far, this split looked very strong for them. Of the all-in potential, the CC lock post level 6, it can be pretty devastating. Interesting to see the Kalista on the other side, though. Very fighting focused inside the lane, but a champion that I feel like can be kind of difficult to play into the Nautilus, right? Tons of CC options right there. The ultimate gives Viper a whole lot of trouble on that Kalista, so can be a little bit difficult there, especially if Wei makes his way into the bottom lane with that Xin Zhao too. There's a lot of tools sort of jump on this Kalista and make her day miserable.
What can they ban away? And of course, the hopper of the Akali has put it into EDG's mind, and immediately they're saying, nope, don't want to deal with that. Don't want to have the slipperiness of an Akali in our game. We banned that, it went away. And now RNG focusing on those supports. So I wouldn't mind actually seeing maybe a Braum ban coming in here for RNG. It would be a nice one. Lulu banned away as well. Goes combo very well, but no, they're going to go with the set this time around, not giving them something that can they flex into the bot lane or into top.
Yeah, recently, I believe Meiko's played the Rakan next to that Kalista, but again, Rakan not a champion that really loves playing against the Nautilus either with all that lockdown there, so we'll have to see what EDG do want to go for. Ooh. That's a little bit more like it. Okay, so now you've got a lot of champions that just want to like get in the ball, fight to death almost, and well, a Taric is gonna support that a whole lot here. It's not one that I'm accustomed to seeing a whole bunch of. You know, it's popped up in the LEC for sure. Saw the game from Fnatic playing that one, I do believe, but this is a champion that I think when a lot of melee champions are in the meta and you can sort of like rapid stack the passive there, getting your Q on a very low cooldown, it can be very strong.
Yeah, it can indeed. And of course, if you're able to bait in a lot of abilities just as your Cosmic Radiance is popping down, you can just absorb so much. And it does keep your team in relative safety if you can get the timing of it right. But on the side of RNG, they're also thinking safety. And they're also thinking a little bit of engage. They pop down the Orianna, something that Cryin is incredibly comfortable with, but not necessarily fitting with the meta as of right now. And now RNG, having seen everything in front of them, they feel like the Mundo is totally safe to do this. And I actually really love this pick, because the later the game goes on, the harder it's going to be for anyone in EDG as of right now to kill this Mundo.
Yeah, it's going to be hard to knock down this Mundo, but I do feel like compositionally, the draft took a very weird turn for RNG. Like, they lock in the Xin Zhao first. It's like, okay, sweet, let's fight around the top side of the map. And it's like, okay, Varus Nautilus, that's pretty good. Orianna, Mundo, like these champions just don't on paper have a lot of inbuilt synergy with them, and EDG just put up like the nastiest sort of like death ball combination you could possibly think of. I mean, look at the survivability. Gwen can go untargetable, Sylas can spam out heals with his W, Taric is healing up his entire team, can make his entire team invulnerable as well. Like, yeah, Mundo can stay alive for a long time, but everyone on EDG can do exactly the same thing, and I'm not convinced that RNG have like the pick potential to single off one member. I'm not convinced they have the team fight potential either. Maybe I'm just an RNG draft hater, but I'm not loving it.
Welcome to the folds of LPL, where nothing makes sense and team fights happen over nothing. As we jump in, now both compositions have been locked and loaded. RNG looking to take down the clean 2-0 and ascend themselves closer and closer to those playoff spots. And EDG, they're not going to be happy with a 1-2 punch knocking them out. They want to bring this one to a game 3, and that's exactly the kind of composition they have drafted themselves. It hits hard, it hits fast, and it needs to hit early. But we'll see how it all pans out and how it all ends up going down on the Rift as we jump in now for game 2.
This is going to be a good one. EDG itching to get back with a win and push us to a third game, and may just happen. The sun is rising, the hopes are rising for RNG fans. They're trying to pick themselves back up after a really rough start to the split. It looked good for them in game 1, finding creative ways to get out into a lead. As we prepare ourselves for the Rift, can't help but feel like both these teams have a very strong statement to make in this game 2. RNG with a 2-0 over EDG. They are instantly back in the conversation. Doesn't matter if they were 12th place coming in today's series. They beat the best team in the league, and well, they won the last split. So it's looking good for them. EDG, of course, need to be able to take their spot at the top and continue that, because they still remember when RNG beat them down in the playoffs last split and gave up on all their chances.
We'll see how it all goes. RNG and EDG do end up getting themselves onto the Rift. We'll see if there's any level 1 shenanigans. Let the Gios roar. A lot of fans for EDG and RNG. Like we mentioned before, tale as old as time. Not quite sure who's Beauty or the Beast in this particular scenario, but we'll wait to see now exactly.
Mundo's the Beast. Mundo is the Beast. For sure.
Mundo is the Beast. And Gwen. Oh my God, you're right. Beauty and the Beast top lane. Flandre versus Gwen.
I didn't even think of that.
We did it!
Let's
Beauty
go.
versus the Beast.
Disney.
Yeah. Instantly the stream gets shut down. It's an instant DMCA. Cease and desist.
Man.
But looking towards these junglers, we are seeing 2 very proactive early game junglers, Lee and the Xin Zhao. Where do you want to see them go? Where do you want to see them prioritize for both sides?
It's a really interesting one, because I think that Wei is going to end up playing towards the bottom side of the map, starting top, pathing on down there. Mid lane, it can be a little bit hard to punish, but Scout being on a melee champion, him stepping up to CS, it can be an area of the map you do look to gank, but I think we'd see a little bit more of that once Ming gets out of the bottom lane, but already got some fighting down here.
Lollipop, lollipop, ooh, lolly, 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 lollipop. That was a nice little lollipop there from Ming. Yeah.
Is that how the song goes? I don't remember.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was an original. That was an original, guys. Just a little
that
improv.
One, yeah. So since you got kicked out of LEC, we're making our own band called LPL. We're gonna see how that one goes. We'll see. We'll see how it all works out. Yeah.
Losers. Oh.
Linguistics.
All right, back to the game.
I don't know. We went off a pit side. Nothing ended up happening. There was a trade in bot lane as we see Cryin now pushing into Scout. Pretty obvious to see this against the Sylas. He doesn't really get the sustain he needs until about level 5-6, where he's able to get those points extra into his Q.
Yeah,
excuse me, it's W.
The W, that's the one. That's the one for sure.
Yes.
There. And, honestly, like with all lanes pushing, it's going to be hard for Wei to find any sort of gank. We're just going to be going for full clears for the time being. Ming actually taking a pretty early reset there with Gala after they shove in that wave at minute 3. So this is where we could open up some opportunities, right? Coming back onto the map, would there be a mid lane gank? Probably not. Cryin is not trying to fast push this wave in, and it does look like it's going to start moving back in towards Cryin, as those melees do end up dropping a little bit sooner. So watch Ming get back onto the map. See how he's not going immediately into the bottom lane. He's got options here if he wants to look for some sort of mid lane attempt, knowing that the wave from Scout is going to slowly start creeping back towards RNG's side.
A very curious pathing there, as we saw just on the graphic below there. There was a couple of win-loss rates here. Only one loss between all of the champions this split for EDG, and this is a nice little move here. Scout dashes forward, and that could mean his doom. He flashes back out, going to be able to flash over the wall and get himself back to safety. Wei has been speeding up there as they do get the command dissonance.
Flashy.
Do they want to continue to push in? Flash over. They're going to try and find them. Ming is not afraid. Ming is going to take his prize, and that's some supportal combat if I've ever seen it.
Beautiful stuff there. Taking the early reset off that little cheater recall and making the gank happen in mid lane. This is a plan thought of, a minute in advance, knowing that wave's going to be coming on back through. Very nicely executed on by RNG, and that answers the question of how do we attack. And now we got to TP into the top lane.
Oh, this TP though was first from the side of EDG, and that means he's in no man's land. Scout, he comes back only to die, and that is just so unfortunate. EDG just left him out to dry.
Uh-oh, it's starting to all come together now for RNG. They get a kill in the mid lane. They kill Scout again. Scout's died twice before Cryin's even reset as a beautiful hook lands in the bottom side.
Yeah, gonna force the cleanse out of Gala as he wants to try and take this trade as Ming really has been on form this series, and this is the Ming that I was coming into MSI as he is the best support in the world, bar none. He is a monster when he's able to open up the map, know that his bot lane is just set up, and we can see there Xiaohu with 4,015 assists. He is he's in 2 places behind Meiko and Ming. This man has been in the league for a very long time.
Man. He's not even a support either. That's the craziest part. He's just behind 2 supports there and doesn't even have a care in the world. He's getting the job done. You know, looking at sort of how the early game has transpired just 5 minutes in, you know, RNG do have a pretty sizable lead, but bot lane, Viper did manage to get a bit of a CS advantage. There's Big Wave pushing in too, so it's a little bit more than just 4 CS for Viper. He'll end up cashing in on that because Ming abandoned that bot lane for quite some time to convert on that kill into Scout. Viper does have the advantage down there, but it's going to be hard to convert that CS advantage into much else unless you get the rest of the team involved. And you could see the idea there, Jiejie making his way down towards the bottom side of the map, but now you see Flandre TPing into the top side. Scout doesn't have a TP either, so if Xiaohu holds onto that one, well, EDG can't go bot lane because that TP is always going to be a threat.
I see Wei and Jiejie just trading pink wards now and looking for priority over Scuttle. Of course, EDG with having that earlier reset will be able to walk themselves up and make sure their jungler gets himself that camp. Good job there for EDG. And for RNG, this is as good as a start you could have possibly hoped for. You've gotten yourself a kill onto your Xin Zhao. You've gotten plenty of assists into your mid lane as well. You're putting pressure onto a lot of EDG, and they have to play a little bit more skittish because without flash in the top side and without flash in mid lane, they could just get collapsed upon. There's nothing they could do.
Good chunk in the middle lane. Wei also has sort of snuck into that bottom lane, playing on top of Control Ward in the Tri-Brush, seeing if EDG overextend, but I think it's going to be hard for it. They did advance the Control Ward to make Wei able to get a little bit further forward, and now it's possible. Viper, not much room to get out here.
Oh, the Dazzle misses, but so does the hook. They get the knock up. Meiko is still pretty tanky. And they do bet themselves back away. They didn't have the flash on Ming. They knew there was still an ignite on Meiko. It's too risky to go full force on that.
Yeah, notice how RNG are timing a lot of these ganks. Whenever the wave is just like slightly, there's like a couple more minions for EDG, right? So it's slowly pushing back in toward RNG's side. So EDG are enticed to step forward and full clear that next wave, bounce it off of the next turret. Well, that's exactly when Wei is going to be waiting and looking for a play. The next time mid lane is in a position like that for Scout, expect to see perhaps Wei, maybe even Ming, make an attempt over towards that area as well. But I think that EDG are going to be happy that Flandre had some prio up on the top side, because you'll notice he actually stepped forward and put some wards inside that blue buff. So the second that Wei hops on over that wall to take the blue, well, he's going to be spotted out, and EDG are going to know pretty much exactly where he is for the next minute or so, because you see him just back onto the map. Well, he's probably going to be pathing from up here down towards the bottom side. So in a minute, you got to be a little bit concerned.
Is going to be the Rift Herald spawning though, and he's already put himself in a position to maybe start that right off the bat. So maybe a trade in pressures. We can see in the mini-map there, just the Taric and Kalista playing a nuisance there, making sure they have control of the Tri-Brush closest to the side of RNG. And it is going to be a trade of Dragon for Rift Herald, unless Jiejie feels like he can get something else going for him. Maybe he's going to go for camps.
Look at
but
that,
RNG
though.
are already kind of wise to his tricks.
Yeah, Ming and Gala recognize that it's a map trade situation, so they were trying to sneak away the red buff. You know, maybe if Jiejie's on the Drake or a little bit slow to get over there, just deny him from stealing that one away. But, you know, after the Herald went down, a good smite from Jiejie will secure it. You'll notice RNG have a couple players in mid lane. Like, they could have collapsed. If it was just 5 more seconds that Jiejie needed to take that red buff, we've got a fight ready to brew in that bot side jungle. But at the end of the day, that does not end up happening. And now Wei realizes, wait a second, my red buff just spawned. His red buff just spawned. I've got Raptors and a red to try and steal away.
It's curious as well, taking the Rift Herald, and even though Jiejie goes for the red buff earlier, it delays this dragon take. He can't take it just yet because they don't have the full priority that they would have had. They don't know exactly where Wei is, but now Jiejie Going to be moving in towards this mid lane. Isn't Fog of War. Now we can see Scout lands the Abscond of Duck. Good shockwave does not land though as Cryin gets himself over. Good kick though. But here is Wei. They didn't know exactly where he was. Where was he? In your back garden. And Wei takes a kill onto Jiejie, and RNG again pumping up the gas, pumping up the gears, and getting themselves some serious momentum.
Jiejie just getting way too wild there. You know, you played the last minute and a half cross-map. You know, you took their red buff. Where is Wei gonna be when he assumes you're probably doing the Drake? He is right there. So a critical overstep again from EDG, something we are continuing to see from them throughout this series. Like the way Cryin is playing too, you know there's a jungler right next to him. You just absolutely have to, and maybe Jiejie's thinking he can get Cryin over the wall there. Maybe with the extra turret shots coming in, it's a little bit easier, but now Xiaohu's going crazy on the top side of the map too. They get another one.
They didn't use the Xin Zhao ultimate, so he was able to separate everybody around, and this is a 4-0 kill lead in favor of RNG. 2,000 gold, and EDG, they're crumbling, Ender. They don't know what's going on. It feels like the pressure's too much for them.
Yeah, you know, they're giving up kills. There was a Drake they could have very easily taken there. If Jiejie decided not to gank mid, they would get that, but instead it's just all these kills for nothing. There's still a Rift Herald in the inventory of Wei. They could use that and get the Drake on top of it. Like, everything is going well for RNG in this game. It's just a very easy turret dive. Stacked wave, TP in, TP not even necessary. It was just straight up 2v1, getting the kill underneath the tower. And this is where you have to start asking the question for EDG, like, what can they do to actually come away with victories later on in the game? Like, can they teamfight? The Taric ultimate, very powerful in the 5v5. They've got a lot of champions that are great at skirmishing around neutral objectives, but it has not been an easy start for them in this game thus far. Wow. 6 a.m. guys.
Yeah, you are tired. You are tired. You have been up an awful long time. We will give you 100% forgiveness on that. I am curious, though, about your position on a Stridebaker Mundo. Not going for the full tank build, going towards a more laning orientated. Yes, it does have the 90% slow, but this feels like another deviation on the build to give you a little bit more priority in that top lane.
Yeah, that is a big deviation. I wonder if it has something to do with like the types of champions he's going against, right? Like Gwen and Sylas both. A lot of sustain, a lot of like persistent damage there too. So Xiaohu just wants to be able to actually like fight back through them, because if he's just using base stats, there's no way you kill Sylas in an extended fight. Like, that could be the idea from him on that one. Will buff up his auto attacks quite a bit here, and hey, it's worked for making these dives happen. Let's try again.
Yeah, the needlework has already been procced once, so they're going to see if they can go on with it. The mist has been used, but they haven't jumped on him just yet. Flandre, you are dead, my son. There's nowhere for you to go. Tower goes down. RNG on a roll. They knew the dragon had just been taken, so they can continue to push. But now EDG, they're looking for a counter push to see if they can catch Cryin on a rotation.
It's going to be hard. He's on a ward, though, and they can hop over these walls. But, wow, he suspects
no flash
something's
from
going on.
Sin.
He's taking the whole long path around. Look at that. The timing just slightly off again. Half a second. Cryan's probably dead there. He doesn't have a flash, but it doesn't matter. He's all good.
And that is just such good respect here from Cryin on this mid lane Orianna, recognizing, cool, they're not in mid, they're not pushing down for any plates, they must be around trying to find me. They must be looking for lazy pathing or lazy backs, and just respects EDG so damn hard. That means that EDG get absolutely nothing in return, and that's a tower in top lane with all the plates. It's a kill. It's now a 4,000 gold leader, just a little bit under it, and RNG are firmly in control. EDG, and it doesn't really get easier for them. Their composition is great once it gets, those first, 2 or 3 items, and after that, they're kind of at equal pickings.
Yeah, it's hard, right? Because EDG do have a very, like, cohesive composition, right? Like, all the champions want to be in your face, melee range, and fighting you. Like, extended fights with all the healing that they do have, but I mean, Cryin deviated from, finishing his mythic item already, going for the Oblivion Orb, right? So he has that ability to cut down on your healing. EDG now trying to attack this middle lane, but RNG can rotate on over here. There's not a minion wave to actually make anything happen. You're all melee champions, so if you're diving a tower, you are committing to diving that tower. There's not much of a way to play that one slow and get out to safety, so easy enough for RNG to clear away those waves, and at the same time, Xiaohu just beating down the top lane tower. That's another one. That's 600 gold there for Xiaohu. Like, it doesn't get better than that.
Honestly, this is such a smart way of playing for RNG. They recognized that Cryin was going to be the target. They backed themselves away. As we can see now, Ming and Gala. The Dazzle does land onto the Nautilus as they try and just maybe look for this one. He does have the hook to get himself out. No summoners or ultimates burned, but good trade here from EDG. But again, it's an equal and opposite reaction. You're trying to get mid lane, then top lane goes down. Okay, you have to deal with that wave. Now you got to deal with mid lane. There's just so much pulling and pushing coming in here from RNG and EDG. They feel like they're being taken away by the current.
Yeah, I mean, the top jungle just doesn't belong to EDG anymore. Wei and Xiaohu going to take that one away easily. It is traded on the bottom side of the map, but with no towers in the top side, like, how does Flandre farm, right? Like, if Xiaohu doesn't just mindlessly push the wave into that tower and you don't have vision of where Wei is on the map, it's really hard for Flandre, who, by the way, doesn't have flash, to actually step forward. So Jiejie has to make a play happen on the bottom side, but his team's a little bit too far away. The wave isn't there, so they can't step between those two towers, and all he does is take a couple of Krugs.
He takes a couple of Krugs, and you can see him. He's desperately trying to find something to work with, trying to create an opportunity and get his team and himself back into this game, but RNG are just too smart. They're too quick to the pulse. They know what's going on with everything he wants to do. And yes, you lose bot lane tier 1, but you're going to gain yourself a Rift Herald. That can be used to crack open mid. That gives you more opportunities in that top half. That top half of the jungle is going to be so difficult to reclaim. And when we get closer and closer to Baron spawning, that's another concern that EDG just don't really have an answer for right now.
Yeah, the most concerning thing of all, though, is that RNG are looking more and more similar to their spring split form the longer we see them go in this series. I mean, just a completely decisive early game way, having yet another phenomenal performance. And, well, if they're finding that form once again, it is not going to be easier the later they get into this game. RNG excellent when it does come to the team fights later on, and Wei has such an advantage right now. He can walk pretty much wherever he wants, and that champion is going to destroy you in fights. We're 40 seconds away from an Ocean Drake spawning on Thrift. RNG clearly want to put a focus on that one, and EDG likely going to give that one up, trade for a top lane turret, trade from topside jungle camps if those are going to be there too. EDG have to constantly play the cross-map game to try and, you know, trade as close to equal as they can. As RNG get to decide wherever they want to go on the map, they're going to win something.
I mean, they haven't even used Rift Herald yet, and they're still taking down the mid lane tier 1. They got that now. They can rotate back down towards that dragon, maybe drop Rift Herald in bot lane, take that tier 1, and this is a sacrifice EDG just have to make, because sadly for them, their top laner only just picked up the Riftmaker, so is only really now in a position to be able to fight for these things. And even then, Flandre is going to TP right back towards that top side. As we can see, Meiko getting caught out, will be using the Fate's Call to keep him safe. But this is just a straight up trade of towers, and RNG are coming out the better for it. They're the ones getting more bang for their buck.
Yeah, the thing is, because they didn't use Herald in mid lane, once we go into the cross map play after the Drake spawns, well, RNG are going to be faster on this push down bot side. They can get another charge off on the inner tower. That means the inner tower is going to drop too, because RNG have numbers. I'm actually really confused why Flandre reset and used his TP back into the top side, because I felt it was pretty obvious RNG were going to be playing for the bot side and playing for the Drake as well. So Flandre, yes, he upgrades to a Riftmaker, but there's no one there that's going to fight him. Maybe he thinks he's going to be hitting this turret faster, doing a little bit more damage to it, and that can make things worth it. But, well, Xiaohu can TP topside because he knows Flandre can't counter TP into the bot lane once he does. So that inner turret does not drop. RNG get the Drake all the same, get the turret in the bot side as well, and takes that inner very, very low.
Such a strange trade of things there for EDG. It feels like they just didn't know exactly what they wanted to do, and RNG just said, okay, cool, well, we're going at 100 miles an hour. If you're not joining us in the 100 miles an hour, we're going to continue it, and you're going to fall further and further behind. So these are the small little moments in the game that, yes, it doesn't have a lot of action compared to it, but as we mentioned earlier, the 5D chess, the movement, the reactions. I think it was yourself or Cage, I can't remember exactly who it was. Because, you know, it's not about acting and reacting. It's almost like a chess game of it's your turn, my turn, your turn, my turn, and that's how League of Legends seems to be playing out in this early stages.
I think I've said something like that, but I don't think
recently.
It was you.
I'll give you credit. I'll give you credit. You're LPL
honestly,
now. We don't care about
Vedius
LEC.
said that because I know Vedius talks like that. So you know what? Maybe it's just an EU thing. Although, can I even claim I'm EU anymore? Sag.
You're more EU than NA.
And now I'm LPL too. Easy. Okay, RNG back
Mr.
on the map.
Worldwide.
Hey, you know, Mr. Worldwide, doing it all, doing some Valorant too. You know, can do a little bit of everything. I'm not a traitor. guys. Anyways, RNG back onto the map. And it's looking real good. Yo, Cryin now has
vitriol there.
Exactly.
Anyway.
Exactly. Oh, man.
We'll
no,
see
honestly,
what way it can come back into this.
Yeah.
Bring it back to the game. Bring it back.
Yeah, we'll bring it back. It's okay. You know, both teams playing sort of cross-map continually, right? Flandre takes some CS topside. Cryin pushes down bot, but double item has come in from Cryin now. He's in a very good position. Now it's all about attacking inside the jungle. You have the speed shrines on the Cloud Rift, so Scout takes the depth charge and escapes, but this turret, not super long for the world. There's a wave coming in, and that one is taken very low.
Yeah, there's not really much you can do to defend against this as EDG. You can maybe look to clear the wave so you don't get any more of a push, but you gotta let that one just crumble to ashes and watch as you find another opportunity. And this is where we're seeing, you know, something like the Sylas not really have the same impact as similar to the LeBlanc. You know, if you can't really get ahead, if you can't play it, it does not really have the same impact as we've seen with some of the best Sylases in the league. The Knight comes to my mind as such, because you need to know when and where you can engage and what ultimates are available to you. As we see now, top lane goes protected again by the TP, but their way, walking straight in, does not hit anybody, but has himself a sweeper, so he knows straight away that there's some funny business going on.
Man, it's having that presence of mind, right? You know, first using the W, then he's like, okay. Didn't seem like anyone was... Oh, okay, there is someone here with the sweeper. Nice. Backs away, playing very cautiously as he waited for Ming to get into the area. So it's not like RNG are getting fast and loose with it. Again, this is a much more controlled RNG, and RNG that won MSI, that won the spring split here in the LPL. Very nicely done by them thus far. And if they're not giving windows for EDG to come back in the game, you know, how do you really make anything happen if you are EDG, right? You don't have a lot of champions that are super great at, like, jumping in and starting off a fight, right? As far as, like, immediate CC tools you have like, a flash kick, you have abscond abduct from Scout, but Meiko's not playing an all-star, he's playing a Taric. Very good if RNG are running into you, but if RNG are sort of, you know, waiting, finding fights on their own terms, that Taric is never going to land some sick ultimate that keeps his entire team alive and, you know, gets this 5v5 that EDG are really looking for.
Did Xiaohu just forget that Mundo is not set and decide to build the set builds? You know, just was committed to it straight away, because he was just like, his build right now is more akin to a bruiser than I would consider a traditional set. And I love it, because right now, with the extra damage that he's able to get to himself, no one can touch him, no one can go near him. He still has the extra HP, he still has the tanky stats and the survivability, but now he's able to go 1v1 against this Gwen. I'm really loving this adaptation here.
It's funny, because, like, I was looking it up and I'm like, is this a build people are doing? I can't find anyone that's been doing this build. Xiaohu, a bit of an innovator here, but it's funny because if you think about it, this is actually a build that existed on Mundo in the past, like before the rework. I know, I think, oh man, like Cabo Shard used to play this weird 80 Mundo. Like there were some EU top players that played 80 Mundo just for funsies, you know, and it worked out pretty well. So maybe some of the theory carrying on over even with the rework, but you know, Xiaohu's making it work.
I mean, if it works, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's the way I see it. It is now with RNG, 20 seconds till this dragon spawns. It is a Cloud Soul Rift, so they are moving around. Not the most impactful of souls ever formed, but they are using the pressure around it and the priority they've garnered in that bot side to now pressure around this dragon. The Chains of Corruption will not miss. The hook will miss as well. The Fate's Call has to be used, but it is 2 ultimates for 1. You'll gladly take that if you're EDG.
Yeah, so again, EDG are trying to play around, like threaten, oh, can we go onto the Baron? Can we take a top lane tower? RNG having none of that. This is really strong macro play from RNG where they're like, no, we're not going to commit 5 people down to the Drake. We know you're playing 3 topside. Xiaohu can solo this. He can call in Gala for assistance. Like, this is exactly what you want to see. RNG not giving EDG any control over the map whatsoever. So many teams would send 4 or 5 members down to the Drake on the bot side, and it means EDG get full control vision-wise of the river. Maybe they take some jungle camps. Maybe they even push in that top lane wave the whole way. No, not RNG. They're not going to let that happen, and it's part of what makes them such a great team.
And it's the suffocating that you see from RNG, the knowing that, like, we don't need to get kills, we don't need to make sure, you know, we're going for these crazy engages, we don't need to outplay you, we just need to out-macro you, like you said. We can just squeeze the life out of you slowly but surely and make sure that you just have no air to survive in this game. Sorry, that analogy got very dark very quickly. as we now look towards the Baron being on the map, and this is something that I don't think RNG do exceptionally quickly. Oh, I don't know, maybe the Mundo build does make it go quickly, but from what I can gather, it doesn't go very quickly, but it is something that they can constantly threat against EDG.
Yeah, absolutely. And they can also just like sort of walk into the enemy jungle at will. They've got such a strong front line. And, well, yeah, very easy to step on forward here. How are you going to find anyone to pick on RNG's composition? Xin Zhao can sort of knock you away, go invulnerable. Xiaohu, very hard to kill, even if he's building AD, can press that ultimate, and not much to get done there. So RNG grouping up in this death ball, not giving EDG any control of the map. Again, there's a blue buff spawning. It's about the mini objectives. You push out the mid wave, you know that's coming up, you walk in, you steal that one. What's going to happen from EDG? Well, they can consider stealing away your blue buff, so Cryin's already moving over there and making sure that that's not a possibility either.
They already have so much damage as well. I love the Morello Namakon's second pickup for Cryin as well. Just knowing that he needs to be able to get those anti-heals, the grievous wounds down to make sure that they're not sustaining throughout these fights. You, of course, have the Immortal Shield Bow on top of the Kalista, and then the Gore Drinker for the Lee Sin, and just in general, Sylas' healing and sustain when he hits level 13 beyond is just ridiculous. So good adaptation here, and it's slow but surely, and it is still only about a 5,000 gold lead, so not exactly the great, or maybe 6,000 as such, as we do my maths correctly, but now we're starting to see now what the side of EDG can do. You've been given time, you've been given resources, you've been given items. How can you convert that into some form of fight or some sort of advantage for yourself?
Press R. That usually works.
Who? Because if you press R as Taric, you're good. If you press it as Kalista, you're screwing up.
I would say, you know, some regions like walking into mid lane and then pressing R. Usually that works. Everyone's asleep. No one's gonna catch that, guys. Don't snitch.
No. Chat, don't snitch. We'll know if you snitch, chat. All right. We'll know if you snitch to LCS later. All right. We won't ever forgive you.
You don't name any names here, man. This is supposed to be a safe space.
Yeah. Safe space. Well, speaking of safe space, this Baron is not a safe space for the side of EDG. They need to get themselves back to the behind the pit, as they have got Wei and Ming roaming with this death squad they are so very well known to be doing, as we have Cryin pushing up into the top side. Now, with the Mundo joining up with his team, do they look to try and maybe just look for something around this Baron? They will have almost 3 items onto their Varus, and again, very slow-tempered game, but EDG, they're not willing to just give this one up without a fight just yet.
Yeah, they can attack this mid-wave first, then consider walking back into the river. Ultimately, you're not really trying to like sneak away a Baron or anything like that. You're just trying to see if EDG will make a mistake when they're trying to reclaim some vision to try and put a ward down inside that pit, and that's when you can try to really find a way to punish. Also, just playing for the jungle camps. Again, mini objectives, a legitimate thing to contest over. Way using that smite to make sure they can go ahead and grab that one. And you'll see the CS leads continue to expand here for RNG. In the last couple minutes, only blown that gold lead up by about 1,000, I think, if I've been tracking that correctly. But still, it's early on in this game, and it's hard to just, you know, instantly break the game wide open, because EDG are not making many, you know, glaring mistakes at this point. They've realized they've fallen behind. They're bearing down, you know, they're matching numbers across the map to make sure RNG can't bully them too much and, you know, start blasting objectives, blasting turrets down, and this and that. But they are giving up jungle camps where needed to make sure they don't fall further behind, massively behind, by making a mistake, getting picked off, and losing a bunch.
Let's have a quick look at the items as we're going through. We've obviously already discussed the Mundo. He's going now more towards the traditional tank build. He's got the Aegis of Legion, but now the Baron's being started. This is not exactly a quick Baron with only 2 people, but no one on EDG has a clue. They haven't even thought about it. They're not even looking towards it. This is going to be a straight-up steal.
Wow.
Again, daylight robbery. EDG don't know. They now have an inkling. They're looking to see if maybe something's going on, but I think it's too late, Ender. I think they've already got it.
Yeah, jungler's on the wrong side of the map. Good luck stealing this one with a blind skill shot. It's just 25 HP. That is not okay, RNG. But you got it.
Oh, it's in the name. They wanted to pray to RNGesus, and they got it. So now with the dragon spawning, we're going to see the TPs coming into the mid lane. Cryin goes back to the base, and with the Baron's taken, RNG are going to look to try and maybe push in mid. If you commit to this dragon, this could be a bit of a easy road in for the side of RNG. They will give up the dragon, but there's no real minion wave just yet. Now, can they keep that inside track? That is the question.
Yeah, I mean, look where Xiaohu is. He can just sort of stop them from stepping on forward here. He's a big boy. Yeah, just you go where you please. You do anything
Solo
you want.
keeps away 4 people.
Again, EDG, like, you have to commit to going somewhere. It seems like they're trying to threaten this flank opportunity, and RNG are not really wanting to deal with that. Instead, moving this pressure all the way into the top lane. I kind of love it, stepping forward to play off of that minion wave and just maintaining this pressure in 2 lanes instead of 1.
Yeah, and you can see the Xiaohu is just so unbelievably tanky, even with the items he has. They just can't really walk up on him right now, and he just needs pure health, and that's exactly what he's got. The minions now crashing in this top side. Give it another 3 or 4 seconds, they will be crashing into this mid lane. Not the best of synergy, but is still good enough as a spreading EDG thin. They have no real thoughts about where they can go. They are just being pulled and pushed and taken around the way. As Scout finally goes in, but he's by himself. He's against Cryin. He will use the stolen Nautilus ult to get one right back into his face. We can see now they're going to be the Cosmic Radiance as Cryin just go falling down, and that's going to be the chain of corruption to try and keep everyone at bay. Now jumping onto Xiaohu, but it's Meiko who falls, and now the re-engage coming in from RNG. They pick up 2 kills of their own. Wei is hungry, hunting for kills, and with this Baron buff and only 3 people still left alive, Jiejie knows he needs to kill this wave. But a nice lollipop for you, sir. That lollipop is going to be nice and sour. You will not enjoy it. And RNG, if they can kill Scout, they may have found themselves the win. It would only be the Gwen left alive. Scout finally gets himself onto the Nexus, but the inhibitor will fall, and RNG, they get what they wanted.
RNG are crushing. You know, EDG, they got a little bit cocky after they got that first kill. My friends, you had a Cosmic Radiance coming down. RNG couldn't do damage. Once that expired, RNG crushed you. EDG kept chasing forward, and they got absolutely punished for it. And, you know, EDG have to force a fight. They're pretty much all melee champions of Kalista. Basically a melee AD carry. Not a lot of range there, so no wave to it. They got to force the fight. And yeah, when the Cosmic Radiance comes down, it's all right. You know, they were able to get Cryin, but then watch this overchase. Scout did not want to get involved in the play. He's missing his Eon minions, because that's a thing, and the rest of the team is still diving in, so very disjointed. And again, even if Scout is there, I'm not sure if EDG are actually going to win that one.
Now the top lane inhibitor has been broken. Now you see the minion waves going to have to start be a little bit more in tune, as RNG maybe finding Jiejie, but no, it's got himself a ward and going to be able to safeguard himself out. But now 3 items onto Cryin, 3 items onto the Mundo on the top side. Now got the Gargoyle's Stone Plate, so again, building up those tank stats. The Sorelja's Grudge onto the Varus, so he's going to be able to slow people down with those piercing arrows. And now EDG, they just need to try and find themselves a way back into this, but unless a miracle really happens right now, it's going to be so difficult.
Look at the tower, it's just gone. Again, no wave clear for EDG. You must just go for a fight, but how do you start it off? How do you fight on your terms? It's go time.
Here we go. This is how they started on their terms. We're going to see the Dazzle not quite come down, but it's going to be the Cosmic Radiance, but not enough to keep them all safe. The Kalista Taric has fallen. They jump straight back on the Scout, who goes golden to strike a pose. The Cryin will not be taken down today. There's 3 kills, 4 kills for the Varus, and that's going to be enough for RNG to take this series 2-0. They remind everyone in the LPL that they are still kings in China.
RNG are back, baby, looking better than ever, absolutely crushing EDG, 13 kills to 1. EDG never stood a chance today. EDG came in #1 in the seeding here in the LPL. RNG, the 12th spot. Well, it was not a 12th place team that showed up today in RNG. This team is looking to get back on form and contest once again come playoffs.
What an emphatic victory for RNG, and it's exactly at the time you want to see it. We have 3 weeks left of regular split. They play 6 more games, I believe it is, and you just gotta feel like after that performance, you can't bet against these guys. And for EDG, they were riding high. They were feeling good for most of this split, but they got to go back to the drawing board because they just came up with blanks.
You know, honestly, it felt a little bit odd, you know, EDG overreaching in some very critical moments, right? Like, these are mistakes that, you know, here and there, you know, they happen, right? But they just kind of happened in both games early on as well. Like here, Jiejie diving in deep for Cryin when you probably should expect that Wei is back in your jungle, that he's got backup behind him with him pushing so far forward. It was these types of maneuvers where EDG were like, yeah, we can outplay, we can make it happen, fighting 3v4. It just did not work out in the end for them in either of these 2 games.
Really did not, but congratulations to RNG. This is a massive scalp for them. Really, really good to see if you are an RNG fan and a fan of the Golden Road, as I like to call it, or as everyone likes to call it back in 2018. And you know, like, coming off of this, they have a couple more games obviously coming up, but they play Ultra Prime midweek next week. Not exactly a game you expect them to lose, but then they play JDG, who are looking a little shaky if we were taking today's series into one. Then they play RA, so again, another team looking shaky. They could find themselves climbing up the rankings very, very swiftly and just pretty much find themselves a top 4 playoffs out of nowhere.
Yeah, no, this team, don't forget about them. RNG are gonna be sneaking their way back into playoffs, and they are gonna be looking strong once they do get there. Also, you know, maybe try out some AD Mundo in solo queue. Xiaohu, 13, almost 14k damage, the most in the game there on the Mundo. So
oh my God, it was.
Maybe it's worth. Maybe we need to give it some credit. Maybe we need to see a little bit more of that.
All I'm saying is that if we start seeing this in every other region, you know, we were the first. We were the first. You know where it came from as such. But great win for RNG. And I'm honestly flabbergasted. I really am, I suppose the word would be, look, a little disappointed at EDG. This is our top team. This is a team that when we were looking at the VODs, we were doing our prep for this series, did not look like a team that would be so easily dispatched, and today they just had nothing in the tank.
I think there's an element, yeah, sure, you can be disappointed with some of the decisions that EDG made in the series. It was by no means perfect or really, you know, close to that. But at the same time, RNG looked very good, right? Like, I think in game one in particular, it was a very close early game, and they were able to find a lot of really good maneuvers, you know, really utilizing those champions to find picks, to bring in numbers advantage, to snap pick people off and punish some of the errors that EDG made. So I think, sure, be a little bit disappointed in EDG, but also RNG just kind of look like they're back. They've been on an upward swing the last couple of series that they've played, and I think by taking down EDG, they have made a strong statement here today that they are back and they are ready to play.
They really, really are. And guess it's just kind of seeing how they kind of continue with this one. You're looking at EDG specifically. I would like to see them, you know, really pick up the pace now. They don't play for a couple of days, so they've got themselves some time off. They played a lot of games early. They can take some time off towards the end. They play themselves, I believe, WE, but we're going to come in to talk about that in a minute. We're going to talk about our MVP. It's going to be Wei again on this jungle pick. He has been the star player throughout the day for RNG.
Shocking, you know, he's absolutely crushing the early game. Yeah, no. Wei definitely showing. I felt like we had some junglers today that were absolutely popping off, none more so than Wei here in this series. And it started early, right? Like, Scout got punished. It was a really good roam timing with both Wei and Ming off the early reset, and they sort of kept that ball rolling, really hammering home around that mid lane, punishing some of the overreaches of EDG. You know, Wei, smite button got lost, but also, like, 1,300 damage just happened out of nowhere. I'm not sure exactly what happened with that. That was a whole lot. So maybe Wei's team trolling a little bit, bursting it down, but at the end of the day, Wei did his job and set up his team for success.
You really, really did. And just going back to my previous point, we look at EDG's kind of next few games. They play WE next Saturday, then they don't play another few days. They play V5, which you would argue they should be coming out of it, and then they play 2 games in the final week. And the final week is really difficult for them. They play LNG and FBX, so 2 very pivotal games. And if you're looking at this now for FBX, you're now sitting at 1 game behind, 1 loss behind this EDG thing. You could sneak above them. That becomes a very pivotal game at the end of the split.
Yeah, it's definitely all in your own hands. That's going to